That's okay. Can I stick it on top of your head? You're obviously a bit better. I've got personal.
No, I'm just thinking about one change. It's fine, I'm just. We have a steer on it, and I don't know if we're.
I've got to be back. Oh no!
Susan's questions like the testings.
Oh, me. I think it'd be.
They'll be taken back in and put and then give them an electric car. Yes, let's go for Yes, before they go back to their car.
Good morning, councillors. Would you take your places, please, whilst we deal with a few pieces of housekeeping?
Good morning, everyone. Just to let you know, there is no fire alarm test planned for this morning, so if the alarm does sound, please can we all leave the building immediately via the main doors. Your voting handset is also your microphone for the meeting. To use the microphone, you will need to press the third button on the left-hand side of the device, and you must keep the button pressed down whilst you're speaking. When we take the vote on an item, you'll be asked to press a button on your device numbered 1 to 3, depending upon how you wish to vote. 1 in favour, 2 against, and 3 you wish to abstain. You will have about 10 seconds in which to cast your vote, and I will let you know when we're about to close the vote. When we are voting on appointments, you will need to press the button which corresponds with the councillor that you wish to vote for. The result of each vote will be displayed on the screens, and the result of how each member voted will only be recorded in the minutes if a request for a recorded vote is made by 10 or more members immediately prior before the vote is taken. We're just going to have a quick practice to ensure that everybody's handset is working correctly. So we have a test question. Okay, so please make sure you've got your smart card in your device, and we'll open the vote now. Please vote now. else got a problem? Two, yeah, we've got two not working. We'll just replace them for you. Just two more votes we want to check. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Would you please stand for the chairman and the chief executive?
Good morning, everyone. Please sit down. Well, here we are, the first full meeting of Dorset Council. And I'd like to congratulate everybody who is sitting as a member of this new council, and also thank all those who over the past few years have worked so hard to get us to this point. I am absolutely thrilled, on behalf of the residents of Dorset, that you have a new Dorset Council. And I wish all of you as councillors good luck, because you've taken on quite different roles to those that many of you have had in the past. But my goodness me, having all the services delivered under the banner of one council can only be for the benefit of our residents, not forgetting the towns and parishes who also, of course, serve the residents. So, the first item on the agenda is the election of chairman of this wonderful new council. Have I any nominations? Councillor Norton, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. So I'm trying to work out how close I need to have the microphone so I don't deafen everybody. Hiya? Super. So, I would like to nominate Pauline Batstone. Pauline has been a pillar of her community for far longer than she's been a councillor. And she's been a councillor for as little as 24 years. So, as a relatively new councillor, Pauline took me under her wing and was always there to provide much needed advice and support while I explored all the intricacies, politics and officers District Council had to offer. I know this is something she's done for many other councillors. I'm not alone in this. She's always been exceptionally kind with how she treats me and takes her time to make sure I fully understand everything she's saying and is happening in council. More importantly, she's not shy in telling me when I'm wrong and then helping to sort it out afterwards. A new council needs a face that inspires not only respect but also trust. It's important for us to make this council accessible to the public, and I believe Pauline is the person to do so. Many of us would not be the councillors we are today without her support, and for these reasons it gives me great pleasure to propose Pauline Batstone as the chairman of Dorset Council.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Have I a second, Dr. Prezel? Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is the first time I've used this. It's so exciting. I'm very happy to second the nomination for Pauline as chairman. For over 36 years, Pauline has served the community and served it well. Pauline is respected across all parties, and my wish as a newly elected member is to work with a council that operates with fairness and respect. And Pauline will, I know, work to bring all parties together and and provide the most positive and effective outcome. And I hope across all political divides that all members will come together and support this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jones. Are there any other nominations? Well, it gives me... Yes, could I have a show of hands then for Councillor Pauline Batstone to be chairman of this council? Well, that looks pretty unanimous to me. May I ask Councillor Batstone to come to the front and I can hand over the ball and chain? Usually when you wear these things, you actually attach them, otherwise they get a bit.
And I took up the nappy pins that I used when I was generally exhausted.
This gives me great pleasure for you.
If I can read now the Declaration of Acceptance of Office. I, Pauline Batstone, having been elected to the office of Chairman of Dorset Council, declare that I take said office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the code as to the conduct which is expected of councillors of Dorset. And that I will now sign. The first thing I'd like to say is to thank Hilary for her time as chairman of this council and for the gracious way she has conducted herself in that office. Nothing that I would not have expected of her, because I seem to remember I was on the council before Hilary got here, and she was someone I tried to take under my wing. I think it was officially working on me. I think it was meant to be a mentor at one point. Failed miserably, obviously. Thank you, Hilary, for what you've done for this council in many roles, and I know you'll retain the house and we shall get a voice coming in from above the hill as we did before. So thank you. Thank you, colleagues, for the confidence you've shown in me by choosing me as the first chairman of Dorset Council. This next year is vital for setting the tone of the new council and the manner in which it operates as a 21st century council, and I'm delighted to have a role to play in that. Born and bred in Dorset, I've been involved in local government all my working life in one way or another. As a councillor for 24 years, as an council employee for 12. I look forward to working with the Vice Chairman and colleagues to promote the profile of the new council. I have 4 areas where I especially want to try to make a difference. First, engaging with our children and young people to make them feel valued and influential in the decision-making process. Second, to work with the parish and town councils to mend relationships where they have been damaged in the unitary process and help to achieve complementary and harmonious working relationships. Third, to give support to the voluntary sector in our county because we need each other, especially in these times of reducing resources. Fourth, with our officers, to engage with the entrepreneurs of Dorset to develop our economy, which in turn improves the quality of life we can afford and the career prospects of our young people. The aspirations and ambitions of this new council are for Dorset to be a place where people want to live, visit, learn and work, and I'm delighted to be able to play a key role in that. Thank you. And the next point I want to make is, the nomination of Vice Chairman. Please can I have a nomination for Vice Chairman of this Council? Mr. Allen, you to nominate.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to nominate Councillor John Andrews for the position of Vice Chairman.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Thank you. I think it was Derek. Yes, Derek's happy with that. Do I have another nomination, Paul?
Good morning, Chair, and congratulations from the Labour Group, and we look forward to working with you. Possibly we won't always agree, but we look forward to working to find a resolution. I would like to nominate Councillor Kate Weller. Kate comes very much from a business background, was our only Labour and I should use the word co-op councillor during the last term for the Dorset County Council. And Kate is, my opinion, the hardest working councillor I've ever met. And it gives me great pleasure today and a great honour to also nominate Councillor Kate Weller. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Do you have a seconder for that? Don't leave thing in Labour Group, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you. And I think at least a third nomination, and maybe more. Sherry.
Madam Chairman, I would very much like to nominate Councillor Val Pothecary as Vice Chairman of this Council. Councillor Pothecary has extensive experience of chairing committees and boards on the Council and on a number of other bodies. She's been a councillor for 12 years, has held cabinet posts and was the outgoing chairman of North Dorset District Council. Val has been Mayor of Gillingham and a town councillor for over 20 years, so she's well known and respected on the chain gang. She's also respected and liked by fellow councillors across party for her collegiate approach. A Dorset woman to her fingertips, Val was a successful businesswoman and has been a long-standing community activist. An advocate for the local economy, community groups and residents, I can think of no one better to represent this council across the county and to be a conduit between us and our residents. Madam Chairman, Val Pothecary will be an excellent Vice Chair and I would like to commend her.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Yes.
I won't add much to that, Madam Chairman, apart from to say it's my great pleasure to second not just my colleague, but my friend Val Pothecary. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other nominations? Then we need to take a vote. No?
Madam Chairman, could I possibly request a recorded vote, please? We should try out the system and make sure it works.
Does the technology allow recorded vote with 3 options?
The technology, Chairman, means that we can record it in the minutes if 10 or more members request a recorded vote before we take the vote.
So we have 1 at the moment. Yep, right. So the last
Chairman, would just be clear that the recorded vote will be shown in the minutes. It isn't shown today on the sheet, so the system will know who has voted and we will record that in. Just so it's clear.
The vote is now open, Chairman. Please vote now. The about to close. Please vote. One vote to go. Vote is closed.
Thank you.
Chairman, sorry, there were a couple of hands up. Can I just check that everybody's been able to vote? If you haven't, can you put your hand up and we'll get somebody to come see you? How many votes have we got recorded?
We've recorded the correct amount of votes, Chair.
You have voted?
In spite of that doubt, one vote, we do have a clear margin, and I'm delighted to announce that Councillor Coventry is elected to be Vice Chairman of this new Dorset Council. Val, would you like to come and join me?
Having been elected to the office of Vice Chairman of Dorset Council, I, Valerie Coventry, having been elected to the office of Vice Chairman of Dorset Council, do I take this office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the code as to the conduct which is expected of councillors of Dorset Council.
Thank you. And thank you for those also whose names came forward to show that there was an opportunity for consideration. Have we any apologies?
Apologies have been received from Councillor Merrill Ezard, Councillor Molly Rennie, Councillor Gary Suttle, Councillor Mike Barron and Councillor Andy Canning.
Are there any declarations of interest? No. Thank you. And the next item is announcements. And I only have some very practical announcements to make. First is that the arrangements today are the first time we've tried this seating arrangement in this room. This is very much a trial. I'll be interested to get feedback from individuals. Derek, you look as if you can't hear me. We'll see how this goes, and I'd be glad to have feedback from both the public and office and councillors to how they feel it goes, and officers. Can I ask you when you speak to give your name and ward? And I find it hard to learn the names and faces of new people, so please do remember, one of the worst offenders of this to remember your name and your ward. And can also explain that it is not required to stand up when you speak. Stand if you feel more comfortable, or sit if you feel more comfortable. You have the option. So, can I now ask for nominations for leader of the council? Another proposer. Councillor Farrar.
Point of order, Chairman, please.
A second, Councillor Farrar, appointed. Now take it.
Thank you, Chair. Tony Ferrari, sent in by the good people of Liverpool and Preston. I would like to nominate Spencer Flower as leader of the council. I can't see with my glasses on. Spencer has been involved in local government as a district councillor since 1999 and a county councillor since 2005. He'd been leader of both tiers of council, so brings considerable experience to the role of being leader of the Dorset Council. He also has strong business management experience, and I'm certain he will bring all of these skills and experience to bear on the challenges we face. I'm delighted to propose Spencer Flower as the first leader of Dorset Council.
Have I seconded that? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chairman. My pleasure to second Spencer Flower as leader of the council.
Thank you. Nick Ireland, Councillor Ireland, do you wish to speak?
Yes, please, Chairman. Nick Island, Crossways Ward. Apologies for interrupting the process for election of leader. I'm sure it will continue. I hope most, if not all, of my fellow councillors here agree with me that climate change is a clear and present danger to the planet and the existence of human life. And I was quite distressed, and distressed is the right word, to find out that a motion by Councillor Darrell Turner, which was he planned to bring it forward to this meeting, couldn't be on the agenda because of the pressures of time. It's all been rather lastminute.com. And I would appreciate your guidance how we as a council can make a declaration of climate emergency, climate extinction, either today or as soon as possible.
Thank you, Councillor Ireland. I think, strictly speaking, that's not a point of order, but I take the point you are making. There have been considerable discussions about this. As you say, Councillor Turner was thinking of raising a motion here today, and there was insufficient time to do that. It is therefore going to be a major item on our July agenda, as our next meeting date, with the intention that that should be given full space for an informed discussion, with all people knowing that it's coming up, with councillors having had a chance to actually make themselves familiar with the necessary information, and indeed an opportunity for the public to come and listen to that debate. So it is certainly a high priority, and it needs dealing with correctly and fully, and that's why it will take it to the next meeting. It is on the agenda today in other forms, but the actual motion will be in July.
With all due respect, Chairman, I believe that's too late. It's July. This is a pressing issue, and if we can't do it today, can we have an extraordinary meeting?
That is my view of the discussion. We have got it on the agenda today through questions, and the actual motion will go to July. Thank you. Question from Councillor Blake.
I should say hello to my neighbouring councillor. You said actually in response to Nick Ireland's request that it would give an opportunity for members of the public to be present and to listen to our debate in July. If that's the case, then we really ought to consider where that meeting is held. I was told outside, talking to some of the people from the climate change group, and I dare say it would have been the same answer from the other protesters outside as well, that they were advised only a certain limited number of them could come into the chamber. Now, if that's the case, then only a small number of the public will actually be able to come and listen to our debate. And I think certainly some colleagues I know will be asking this later on during the agenda, that we want to make sure that if we're going to have a sensible debate about this and be well prepared for it, then there's got to be an opportunity for the public to come and hear what we're debating.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you for your helpful comments, and we'll take that, bear that in mind. Something very important. Thank you. We now have nominations for leader. I have one nomination. I have one nomination for leader, and that is Councillor Clark. Yes. Are there any other nominations anyone wishes to put? Otherwise, we want a show of hands, please, to support the nomination of Councillor Flower. Overwhelming. Thank you. Are there any abstentions? Does anyone want to indicate that they are voting against? Thank you. Councillor Flower, would you like to take your place?
Chairman. Can I speak on Councillor Power's election?
Got three pieces of information going through there. Councillor Arnold, would you like to speak?
Chairman, I would like to congratulate Councillor Flower on his reappointment to a management position after an absence of several years, and I look forward to working with him constructively going forward. I have noted that in the press recently he has stated that we are all going to work together as a team, yet in his nominations for committee chairmanships, which we'll be discussing soon, he has been conservative in all meanings in the word. The Constitution makes no provision for the executive to be proportionally representative, yet that doesn't preclude it being so. With nearly 48% of the councillors in this chamber, and I use that word in the loosest possible way, we have a purposely designed facility across the town with more than enough room for the members of the public who wish to engage in the democratic process today, and we're unable to do so. We have a width and depth of experience in all aspects of industry, employment, teaching, leadership, and many other areas, yet we're not even on the subs bench, let alone the pitch. Given Councillor Flower's admission of supporting the lesser of the three Merseyside football clubs, I hope that going forward, this election policy would be more in the vein of Jurgen Klopp rather than Sam Allardyce.
There are those of us in the room for whom that is very strange thought. Yes. I get the argument.
Thank you, Chairman. The Labour Party, as you know, we're down to 2 seats. We plan to play a full and active role going along to cabinet meetings, asking questions and clearly scrutinised. But yet, we feel with this cross-party that we've almost been relegated to very minor committees. Could I ask for your good offices as our leader, our leader and chair, to re-examine this? We feel as though we're being left out and very much in the cold.
Thank you, Councillor Kimber, and you have both always packed well above your weight. Councillor Flower, would you like to tell us about that?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. First of all, thank you very much, Nick. Appreciate your football analogies. It's a sport that I take a great interest in, and Liverpool just missed out, did they not? Well, they had a good manager. What I'd like to do at this point in time is introduce the Cabinet to you, and when I call their name, perhaps they would like to come forward and take their seats near me. Peter Wharf, who is Deputy Leader, and he's got Corporate Development and Change as his portfolio. Tony Ferrari, Finance, Commercial and Assets. Graham Carr-Jones, Housing. Gary Suttle, who is unfortunately not with us today, Economic Growth and Skills. Andrew Parry, Children, Education, Early Help. Laura Miller, Adult Social Care and Health. David Walsh, Planning. Ray Bryan, Highways, Travel and Environment. And last but not least, Tony Alford, Customer, Community and Regulatory Services. And while they're taking their place, I'll take on board points that have been raised, and I'll come back to that in a short while.
Thank you. Spenny, sir. Yes. Can I ask you if there's anything that you
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm not going to say a lot of words today because I think it's a busy agenda, and I just wanted to thank the Chairman. Thanks to you members for putting your faith in me to be the first leader of the Dorset Council. This is a great honour and an immense privilege. As leader, I want to promote a collaborative approach to the delivery of quality public services whilst dealing with the known challenges of rising demand and severe financial pressures. We need to create a can-do culture, a culture that puts the interests of our communities first. A member-led council making a real and lasting difference in Dorset. This is a big job, but with the support of members in this chamber, we can really make a difference for our communities that we serve. Thank you, Chairman.
The next item on the agenda is public participation. And we have, I think, Mr. Alistair Chisholm to ask the first question.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think I could possibly manage without a microphone. I'm not being arrogant, but this is not such a very big room. I'd rather attention would pay to my question.
For hearing aids.
There may well be good. Allow me to borrow one of these magic machines.
There's one coming up to your... Thank you.
My apologies, you're quite right. I should use a microphone. Yes, so, since the All for Dorset group of independent councillors, of whom incidentally there are 4 in this new Dorset Council, are mindful that a referendum on council governance was held in West Dorset in 2014. Remember, the West Dorset electorate voted most convincingly by 2 to 1, 16,534 against 8,811, to change the one-party West Dorset District Council Executive Committee, or Cabinet, to a mixed-party strategy committee to reflect far more democratically the makeup of the full council. And bearing in mind that the executive committee, which we see before us now, or cabinet, will be the most important policy-making committee of this new council, it should therefore reflect as far as possible the complete composition of the new council. And we have very, very little doubt that the great majority of the Dorset Council electorate will share this view. My question is as follows. What, and I'm asking it of the leader, Councillor Spencer Flower, what principles have guided or will guide the selection of the executive committee or cabinet of the new Dorset Council? I can't help but notice, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've got a feeling they are all Conservative. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah.
What principles underlie the creation of this particular cabinet for what is supposed to be a new, dynamic, different, more inclusive council? Councillor Spencer Flower, I look forward to hearing the principles that underlie your selection of your cabinet colleagues.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Obviously grateful for Alistair Chisholm's question, because it gives me the opportunity to just set out how we reached the conclusion that we reached this morning around the Cabinet. The order which established the new Dorset Council was very clear, requiring that the Council should adopt a leader and executive governance model. In the leader and executive model, the leader is elected by the full Council. I'm extremely grateful for the confidence that fellow councillors have placed in me by electing me as leader this morning, as I said earlier. The leader and executive model gives me as leader personal responsibility for deciding both the areas of responsibility to be filled by the Cabinet and which councillors should be appointed to those areas. Conservative candidates were successful in being elected to the majority of seats on the Dorset Council, and I've drawn my cabinet from the majority group. In making my decision about areas of responsibility and who should fill them, my guiding principle has been to identify not only the best person for the role, but also a group of councillors who will be able to work together effectively as a team. As part of that, I believe that particular strength of purpose comes from forming a cabinet of like-minded councillors drawn from the same political group. Councillors from all political groups and ungrouped councillors will all play an important part in the Dorset Council, and I'm committed to working with councillors of all the groups across the chamber. Thank you, Chairman.
Bring on the referendum.
Thank you, Councillor Flower. Can I now call on Mr. Philip Jordan to put his question two?
Thank you and good morning. I've got two questions. Please address the following two questions regarding the need to deal with, adapt to and help solve the growing environmental and climate change issues that increasingly threaten all our and creation's futures. Question 1. Please, to help solve the situation outlined above and incorporating and using as an initial start point Energy Trust advice, which I can furnish those who are interested in with, can Dorset Council urgently agree an environment and climate change emergency, together with related solutions via sustainably resourced problem analysis and action plan development meetings, both inside Dorset Council and out in all sectors of the community? That's my first question. The second question, which is related, goes as follows. Please, to also help solve the situation outlined above, and as but one example, can Dorset Council reconsider the 3.5 new homes proposed for just north of Dorchester, 1 mile over there, made in 2018's local plan?
Jordan, can I interrupt you? I think it would make your life easier than ours if we took the other question that is related to your first question now, and then you put your second question separately, so that we have the right response to the right question. If you could.
They are linked, but
yes,
sure.
That's a good point. If we can take Kaz Dennett's question next, and then we'll have the one response. Is Kaz Dennett here? Yes. Thank you. Sorry to stop you on your big screen.
Thank you. I have a statement and that will be followed by a question. So I'm here on behalf of Extinction Rebellion to make the case for a climate emergency declaration. The science is clear. It is understood that we are facing an unprecedented global emergency. We are in a life or death situation of our own making and we must act now. At the end of 2018, the UN Secretary General warned that humanity and life on Earth now face a direct existential threat. The world must act swiftly and robustly to keep global warming under 1.5 degrees Celsius and avoid an utterly catastrophic impact to life on Earth. Human activities have caused the planet's average surface temperature to rise about 1.1 degrees since the late 19th century, and most of this warming has occurred in the last 35 years. Maybe 1.5 degrees doesn't sound like much to you, but we are at a tipping point. If we do not act now, we seriously risk runaway or uncontrollable climate change. To put this temperature rise into context, for those of you with school-aged children or grandchildren, the projected temperature rise when your child or grandchild retires is around 5 degrees. So that's what we're talking about, a future where we are 5 degrees warmer than we are now. Effects on global human society, if the climate and ecological emergency is not addressed, may spiral out of control. This could mean mass species loss, sea level rise and flooding, wildfires, water shortage, crop failure, extreme weather, millions of people displaced, disease and increased risk of wars and conflicts. And we are already starting to see some of that now. Please be in no doubt that the climate and environmental emergency is real. A mass extinction event is underway. Many current life forms could be wiped out and are at least committed to extinction by the end of this century. And to put it back into context, that's when your school-aged child or grandchild will retire. I think we would all agree that this is not the legacy we want future generations to inherit from us. We need environmental considerations and risk assessments to be central to Dorset Council's decision-making, actions and behaviours. We need a proactive approach to preventing further environmental harms. If you see a pipe is leaking flammable liquid, you do not watch and wait for it to catch fire and only act once it does. But currently our government at all levels is doing precisely this. The pipe is already leaking. We have no time to wait and watch for the disaster to unfold. This means taking actions and commitments that demonstrate environmental-based decisions. For example, investment and support for public transport. We need early action to reinstate bus services that have been cut in recent years. Action on air pollution, such as the ongoing situation on Boot Hill, Rodwell Road and Weymouth, where levels of NO2 have regularly exceeded legal limits, causing serious harm to residents' health and well-being. Planning considerations for renewable energy schemes. Natas Bay offshore wind park was refused planning in September 2015. This was a decision in the wrong direction to help reduce further harmful emissions. We demand Dorset Council recognise the current climate and ecological crisis by declaring a climate emergency and act now to halt biodiversity loss and reduce greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2025. I have a question. So that was a statement, that is the case for declaring an emergency, climate change emergency. So you've kindly listened to the case for Dorset Council to do this, and thank you for that. Does any councillor deny or doubt that the climate crisis we are in is real? If you do, if there's anyone present, thank you for your honesty, sir. However, it looks like the majority agree that we are in this crisis. And in this case, will this meeting agree to declare a climate emergency in principle today and approve a written motion to formally declare a climate emergency at the earliest opportunity and with a sense of urgency that it deserves?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's entirely related to what you're talking about. Yet you interrupted me, and I would like to finish what I was saying, if you don't mind.
Well, yes. The point about your second
The point
question
about my
also,
question is it's about the same thing, and you interrupted me.
it's also about another same thing as well. That's why I wanted you to have the opportunity to reply to that question as well as to your first question. If I could ask Mr. Morrison to speak, then we will come back to you, sir. Mr. Morrison.
Okay, Scott Morrison, West Dorset Friends of the Earth. You may have received an email from me recently from the responses I got. I'm fairly confident that everyone in this room, with one exception, is convinced that all the policy was radically changed with respect to climate change and biodiversity collapse. I am asking today that this council, like many others in the UK, declares a climate emergency. A declaration is of intent. What our community will look like in 10 years' time. The declaration is easy to make, a lot easier than it is to implement. But first, we need to have that intention. We need to state it clearly. 10 years ago, the councillors were busy enshrining sustainability into our frameworks. Those of you who have been around long enough remember sustainability was the catchword really in that era. It, unfortunately, there was not enough urgency, and we all had corporate sustainability managers who were given some role in the council, but not the crucial role over saying which policies and what things were not acceptable to climate change. Our responses weren't bold enough, and we behaved as if we could just make slight changes in the way we did our accountancy, and we could still get the last drops of oil out of the ground and still somehow solve the climate change process. As my president, not my current president, as the president said some time ago, the dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, we must think anew and act anew. We must disenthrall ourselves, and then we shall save our country, our home. Climate change and biodiversity is not a partisan issue. Climate change is happening and will continue to happen despite what happens in this chamber. But what we might be able to give is Greta Thunberg and her generation of future. It's not good enough for our legacy to them to be just an apology. My apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. And thank you for speaking. I'm now going to ask Councillor O'Brien, the Cabinet member responsible, to read the response, and then I'll go back to Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First of all, can I thank everybody for the questions that you've raised today. They are duly noted, let me add. Recent statements and reports by both the Committee on Climate Change and the UK Parliament have all highlighted the significant concerns and risks associated with climate change to our environment and our society and our economy. As the new Dorset Council, we have an opportunity and an obligation to demonstrate leadership, thinking globally about the implications of climate change and acting locally to help address those in our communities. Councils in Dorset have historically taken some large steps. We have the most energy efficient schools in the country, and Dorset was an early adopter of the low energy streetlights. We need to continue this good work, but in doing so, we need to be more ambitious and implement new initiatives to bring about significant reductions in our carbon emissions. The crucial need to tackle climate change is something we can all agree on. It is an issue which transcends party politics, and after discussions with my fellow councillors, we have agreed on the need to create a cross-party panel on climate change. That panel, led by myself as Environment Portfolio Holder, will have the task of developing policy for the Dorset Council. My track record at working with fellow councillors from all parties on important issues and producing with my colleagues a plan will ensure we create a policy for Dorset Council. The policy will need to take into account, first of all, the most recent science. Secondly, the recommendations of the UK Committee on Climate Change. Third, the national approach. But more importantly, from my point of view, listening to the local people and what they actually want. But it also needs to reflect the particular concerns about the impacts on climate change upon our own communities in Dorset. Local input will be essential. The Executive Advisory Panel will report back to the Council and Cabinet on progress of the development of the policy. I am committed to putting sustainability at the heart of the panel and everything else that I'm responsible for. And I hope that all my colleagues here will support me in putting Dorset at the forefront of Council's working to tackle climate change. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. So I now call on Mr. Jordan to give us his second question. This is your second item of cherry, Mr. Jordan, please.
Thank you. This is a related question. My purpose in asking it was to illustrate how in every aspect of Dorset Council's actions and committee considerations in the future, this is just one but very good example among the many, many, many others that you will have to deal with on a daily basis. So it goes as follows. Please, to help solve the situation outlined above, and as but one example, can Dorset Council reconsider the 3,500 new homes proposed for just north of Dorchester that was made in 2018's local plan review preferred options, which with all due respect had these proposals that fail in heritage and many other environmental ways, so-called environmental, as they just stretch the built environment in the same old way, as over a century ago led Octavia Hill to be one of the 3 founders of the National Trust. For example, among unanswered queries that these proposals raise, things like Dorchester and elsewhere in Dorset don't tackle the environment and climate change crisis. For instance, through use of floors over shops, which although it's mentioned in the LPR, there is an unmet need for active official promotion of, say, residential use of the many underused floors above shops and land used or zoned for things other than housing. Similarly, 2018's LPR preferred options have little on utilising and maximising use of the currently underused existing rail network. For instance, relating new development to the railway and adjacent brownfield land, encouraging use of the existing rail infrastructure, plus walking and cycling and better public transport to promote healthy exercise, greater biodiversity, and thus less carbon cost and impact. Please enable, adapt a Dorset action plan together to help solve the environment and climate change crisis and thus emergency. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your patience and to all our speakers today. And Councillor Walsh, you're responding, I believe.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you.
Chairman, thank you, and I'd like to thank all the people that came along today regarding climate change and put this in point of order. Because this is such an urgent item and an issue, I'm sure that people haven't wanted to come along today. They want to hear more from probably group leaders. Could I request that you consider suspending standing orders for a few minutes to hear from each group regarding their way forward on climate change? Thank you.
On your fellow group leaders, can I ask Councillor Walsh please to make a response to the questions he's put?
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, Mr. Jordan, for your question. The Dorset Council is required to have a local new plan covering the whole area in place by April 2024. And the Shadow Executive Committee agreed in February that the Council should aim to have this adopted by April 2023. A report on the programme for its preparation will be brought to Cabinet at the end of June. The new local plan will need to provide for housing numbers generated by the National Standard Methodology for the area. It is also possible that it will need to provide for housing need that cannot be met in adjoining council areas. Work on the new plan will include reviewing all the options that have been previously considered to decide on the most appropriate distribution of development across the council area. It is, however, already clear that the housing needs cannot all be met through the efficient use of land within the urban areas, and that further greenfield development will be required as well. Sustainable development is the aim of the planning system, and factors such as accessibility by public transport, walking and cycling, and impact on biodiversity will be important considerations in making decisions about the location of development. Concentrating development at the larger settlements with more facilities and public transport, such as Dorchester, is likely to be more sustainable. The text in the 2018 local plan consultation document relating to North Dorchester development refers to creating easy access for pedestrians and cyclists, reducing carbon emissions from buildings, and enhancement of biodiversity as part of the development.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Sutton, do you wish to make a point of order or?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Point of order in response to my friend Paul Kimber. As leader of the Green Group, I would like to say on behalf of all our members how incredibly warmly we welcome the fact that you've come here today to underline this absolutely critical issue for all our futures. We are all aware that the words are easy. The warm words are easy. However, if this is going to be more than warm words, we need the actions, don't we? We need to make difficult choices. We may need to make some sacrifices. We can't endlessly talk about economic growth. We need sustainable growth, sustainable development. So I just want to assure you that we are listening to everything you say, and we're working with everyone here of all colours to make sure this really does mean something. Thank you.
Your point of order, Don't go there. My point would be that we've heard that a panel will be established, we've heard that work is going on, and certainly your point of order, beautifully expressed, means that there is going to be work done on this. So I don't think there's any point at all in following through and getting the views of leaders now. Let's have an informed debate at our next meeting, and there is work to be done in the meantime. Hand up the back. Is there anything you wish to say to the point of order?
Taylor from Chelmsford St Mary's and Dorset Town Council. I'm just reiterating the fact that they're looking at Dorchester producing 3,500 houses they want to put there, will increase the traffic by 10,000 cars.
Councillor, we're not getting into that debate now.
I'm just taking the fact that obviously there is a major problem and it should be addressed.
Thank you. Thank you for raising Can we now get back to business and deal with the appointment of committees and the appointment of chairman and vice chairman? Sorry. I'm sorry, Stella.
My question wasn't answered. My question was,
Sorry, it's not okay because there may be people with hearing difficulties. Could we have a microphone for Stella, please?
My question was, if the majority in the room agree that we're facing this climate emergency, can we agree a declaration in principle today with a further approval? Is there any reason why we cannot take a vote on whether a declaration in principle should be passed today, please? Absolutely now, right now.
Can I say that no, because we have not had a motion put, because we didn't have planned for a motion to be put, and we have planned to have a motion to be we cannot, it's not on the agenda for today, so it cannot be put, but action is being taken. We have agreed a panel, work is being done, and we will gain nothing more by making that statement today. We hope that it will be done in July. So thank you. If you would
again, I think it would be good to record what the intention in the room is. What is the intention of the council? So this doesn't get it kicked into the long run for a further month or 2 months. Absolutely. Even if we have a show of hands, it would be really good to know who in the room actually agrees that we should, in principle, declare that we are in a climate and ecological emergency.
No, I'm sorry. We've made a decision that we're not moving forward with that today. We'll move forward with it in July, and we've worked to be done. In the meantime, considerable work to be done.
Because the people here will make that decision.
It's not an agenda item. We have a format to follow. We're not ignoring what you require and what will be done.
The system is too slow. There's an emergency.
Thank you.
So can I say then we could report back from this meeting today that Dorset Council has failed to declare a climate change, a climate emergency.
Yes.
That's their headline.
We want action.
Thank you. If you would resume your seat. Thank you. Yes.
Chairman,
Sorry, can I take, can't remember your colleague's name. Would you like to come first?
Keep pressing it. Councillor Maria Rowe from Colne Hill and Wimble Minster East. Just to reiterate that I agree there is no time like the present. We must act now. They are not important. An agenda, just because it's not on an agenda item, doesn't mean that it can't be heard and that we can't pass a declaration of climate change emergency right this minute.
Chairman.
I've been reminded that we are in question still. We're in danger of moving into debate, which we haven't got on the agenda. Captain Spencer, you wish to speak, and I'm going to go back to questions at that point.
briefly, Chairman, I want to make the point that we have declared this morning we are going to take a constructive and positive approach to dealing with the issue. I actually met some of you outside the door this morning, and I gave you some assurances, actually, that we are taking this matter seriously. Councillor Ray Bryan made it very clear that we're going to set up this panel, we're going to look at it properly, we'll create cross-party, create proper policy base on which we can take this matter forward. Nobody underestimates the seriousness of the point you're making. Carrying on, we need, and I think the important thing is this has been happening. If everybody supports the idea principle that there's scientific evidence that you suggested, this has been happening over decades. We're talking about taking a couple of months to reflect and prepare ourselves with a strong policy base, and Ray has already pointed out that quite a number of things that previous councils have done have been very good in terms of creating carbon neutrality. So from my perspective, Chairman, I think we've had a thoroughly good debate. We all understand the concerns of and I'm grateful for members of the public coming to the meeting today. I think we need to move on with the business.
Thank you,
Madam Chairman, Paul Kimber has already suggested we suspend standing orders, and I'd like to second that, please.
I think, first of all, we need to move to a vote on that.
Chairman, could at the same time the monitoring officer give us advice in relation to item 14 on the agenda, which is urgent business, and whether or not a vote on the issue of the emergency, as opposed to a detailed debate on the subject matter, could be held under section 100B 4B of the Local Government Act 1972. Does it fall within an item of urgent business that you have the power to bring forward?
Chairman, on that specific question, the agenda is very clear. Items of urgent business are items which the chairman has had prior notice of and considers to be urgent. And as I understand it, you did not have prior notice of this, and you previously and you've already indicated to the meeting that you are content with the arrangement under which a policy panel will be formed to establish an evidence base and then come back to your next meeting with a formal debate. So as I understand it, you've said that this is not an item of urgent business, albeit the matter of climate change is hugely important.
Sorry, can I just say you did have prior notice of this question to make a decision today because it submitted 5 questions on Monday.
We need to move forward on this. We acknowledge that there's an issue very much that's going to be brought forward next time. We are doing work as of now and have done work on this issue. And my view is that we move forward to have a debate at the next meeting when we will debate whether or not we move forward with the declaration of urgency. And I'm now closing that part of the debate. I wish to move on.
Madam Chairman, I've requested that we have a vote on the suspending standard order.
Chairman, I understand that you had a request to suspend standing orders then for the specific purpose of enabling the group leaders to address the council on the question of climate change. Is that correct? Yes. So I think you moved to a vote on whether to suspend standing orders.
There's only one group leader in this room, I think, who's Paul spoken, Claire spoken, or is there one?
I'd like to make a couple of additional points, particularly in terms of being a bit more agile in the process here.
In which case, we'll move to the vote to suspend standing orders for that specific purpose to allow leaders to give their views on climate change. Are we doing this by electronic voting, please?
Yes, we are, Chairman. The vote is now open.
Christopher, if this is a point of order, because I wish to move on to
This
this
is a point of order.
Can I be
I'm
clear on the point?
convinced that there is more that unites us than divides us. I've already spoken to many of you, and I've apologised for what the Conservatives did with the beaching cuts as opposed to
What was your point of order?
We will work with all parties. I've had discussions with Ireland earlier.
Can't hear what you're saying.
Hold it.
And my suggestion is...
Hold the button.
Thanks, Christopher. This is not a point of order.
And my suggestion is this. When we have the local government association conference in Bournemouth, for instance, we will travel from here on the train, and I invite Nick to join me on that train at the LGA conference, and that is a clear commitment that we will work together to reduce the damage to the environment, and we move on from there.
Thank you, Christopher. That was not a point of order. Please resume your seat. I'm now going to... Not had a chance to do actually.
With your permission, Councillor Maria Rose will respond to the Liberal Democrat Group.
A lot has been said, and my point is just basically the same thing. We're running out of time. We need to be addressing climate change. We need to declare a climate change emergency immediately, now, this minute, not in a couple of months' time. And then we can start working on an action plan, which is the real hard work, the work that needs to be done. And I hope that you will agree with me that we can declare a climate change emergency.
We can do it now, today. Yeah.
To second the motion, just bear with me, Kelvin Clayton representing Group.
No, I'm sorry. Can you resume your seat? I want to hear from the group leaders, please, which is what we voted for. Claire, then followed by Paul. No, Kate, which of you is group leaders? Is me. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I won't labour this too much. This is supposed to be a change of culture, you know, the new Dorset Council, a new way of doing things. We have an agenda item at the very end of the agenda which is entitled Urgent Items. I think we're all agreed that if anything is urgent, then this is. And the fact, Jonathan, that this might not be strictly according to, you know, how we usually do things, I really don't think that's a sufficient reason not to do it on this occasion. So please let's be sensible and go that thing, and accede to the request. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My group will be supporting the emergency climate change motion that is down today. We wholeheartedly agree, and that something, and I'm a councillor for Portland, so that means we know quite a lot about flooding and climate change already because we've experienced it. So we will be supporting this motion that's put forward today. Thank you.
Yeah, Les Fry, independent, representing the Alliance for Local Living. I will be supportive of this motion, but I'd also like to see this group, when we're working forward, look for a plastic-free Dorset and a low nitrogen Dorset as well. I think they'll make a big difference to us. Thank you.
Councillor Flower,
Thank you very much, Chair. Well, just to demonstrate that we stand in a democratic environment, and there was a vote in favour of the agreeing the climate change in principle. I'm content that we do that, and that the action plan does come out of the work of the panel, cross-party panel that was mentioned earlier by Ray Bryan and myself. And if everyone's content with that, we can get on with doing the job.
So, Councillor Flower, yes. advised, and from what Councillor Barr has said, all leaders are in agreement that we should treat this as a matter of urgency. Could I add,
Madam Chairman, can I
just add something to that, Nick, and that was that my colleague at the far corner there, we have been working steadily towards it, and we have proposals today for what we should do. It's not a case of starting the moment we pass that motion. We've been already working on this. Nick?
Madam Chairman, we have no motion at the moment, so I'd like to formally promote a motion that this council recognises climate change and will today declare a declaration of climate emergency.
In principle, and then we move forward. Yes. Claire is seconding. I've got several people wanting to speak. Darrell?
Chairman, thank you. Thank you.
Hold it, Darrell, just going to clarify the wording. Can you give it again, please, Nick?
That this council recognises climate change and will today declare it a climate emergency.
Yes, it's simple. We can do this.
Right. Councillor Turner.
Chairman, I'm really a little concerned that the actual proposition we've just voted on was suspend standing orders. As we have suspended standing orders, I would suggest we take the motion I already have and actually act on it now.
Come on, we can do this. This is for everyone.
Only 8 people, I understand, have seen your motion, Councillor.
And Chairman, the rest can hear it now.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm looking for a constructive way forward, and I think it'd be very useful when this, at the writing of this meeting, if the leaders of the groups get together for a conversation about how we populate the panel so we can get on with the work that was spoken of by Ray Bryan earlier.
Declare an emergency.
Okay, can I ask the officer to give us what we think is the correct wording, and then we'll go into discussion.
Chairman, the words as I have them are that this council recognises that climate change is happening and agrees in principle to declare a climate emergency.
Not in principle.
Why does it have to be in principle? We want to declare it today.
Yeah, I understood that to be the wording. If members would.
Sorry, back to Clark, Johnson, speak.
So, Chairman, I had understood the thrust of the meeting and the views that were being expressed to you by members of the public that they wished you in principle to declare a climate emergency.
No principle. This is exasperating. This is for everyone, children.
The word is that this council recognises that climate change is happening and
So, that the council recognises that climate change is happening and agrees to declare a climate emergency.
So that is the motion you are now debating. If that, we know that Darrell had a previous motion. That's the motion you are now debating. The simple.
Sorry, Chairman, it's a point of order. I do apologise. The actual original proposal to suspend standing orders was for 15 minutes for the leaders to speak. That has now happened. 15 minutes is up. We are now back in standing orders. So we need to re-propose again, so illegal and so it's tied, that we now suspend them so we can debate this. I'm happy to propose it if necessary.
Chairman, I don't believe that you need to suspend standing orders. As I understand it, you are treating this as an item of urgency from the chair and accepting a proposal for debate, the proposal from Councillor Ryan for debate. You're treating that as an item of urgency, effectively bringing forward item 14 on the agenda. So there is no need to suspend.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I don't really think we need to say anything else about this, quite honestly. I think Kaz Dennett and various people on the other side of the room have expressed with absolute eloquence everything that we need to say. And we can all stand up and give our two penny worth, but actually, we could just print off the speeches that have been made from the members of the public and take our guidance from that. So I think the only thing we really need to say is, once again, thank you so much for coming here. Thanks for pushing the agenda. I don't think we'd be in this position where we'd have agreed this had it not been for the public pressure, which is absolutely wonderful, and it's great to see democracy in action in this way. Thank you.
We have
Chairman, the motion then that you are voting upon is that this council recognises that climate change is happening and agrees to declare a climate emergency.
Can I request a recorded vote, please?
The vote is now open.
Let's confirm that is a recorded vote, members, and recorded in the minutes. Thank you.
Point of order, Madam Chairman, and that's not. It says will declare a climate emergency. I would have thought does declare a climate emergency. I'm sorry, but it does change that immensely.
Is the proposer and unseconded?
We've already voted, Chairman. You can't change it halfway through.
Sorry, he gave me 2 seconds to read it.
We will take the revised wording. But please vote now, based on the revised wording.
Right, can I have the revised wording, please?
Does declare a climate.
Okay, we will revise the wording on the slide, so that vote is now closed. We will reopen the vote in 1 moment. Thank you everyone, the vote is now open. Please vote now. The vote's about to close. 3 more votes. 2, 1. One more vote, please. Yep, thank you very much. The vote's now closed.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience and for your contributions this morning. I'm very conscious that there is another questioner who's been waiting very, very patiently for all of this. And I now ask Sarah Greenhalgh to speak to us.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm here on behalf of the Butlers Anti-Academy Action Group. We have a well-established group of parents, grandparents, staff, students and local community stakeholders. We want to keep Butlers School as a unique school accountable to the local community. We have 406 people in our, 406, we'd like to have 406 people in our group, and we have a petition signed of over 600 people. I have 2 things. I have a question, and it's been put to me this morning that we could raise a model motion. So my question is, with Aspirations Academy Trust currently running with insufficient reserves, and with the situation at Atlantic Academy, All Stars nursery provision under threat of closure due to profitability and a drop in pupil admissions number, so the school capacity for Atlantic Academy is 1,730 children. At the moment there is only 820, so that's nearly a drop of 1,000 children. important Atlantic Academy. So we ask, how does this bode for Budmouth College's future? Job losses are imminent at Budmouth, with redundancies paid for by Dorset Unitary Council. The curriculum is under threat of loss of subjects. No Ofsted visit inspections have been carried out since September, which should have happened. So, sorry, I would like to raise a model motion, which is that the Dorset Council support our request that Aspirations Academy Trust is rejected as sponsor and delay the academisation process.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. We haven't answered your question. Your model motion is not on the agenda, but we have a response and we can from Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for your question. All Stars is the Atlantic Academy's breakfast and after school club for children from reception year upwards. We understand this provision is under threat of closure. The circumstances surrounding Budmouth College are very different to the All Stars situation, and it is very difficult to draw conclusions at this stage. It is, however, apparent that the closure of All Stars could impact on Atlantic Academy's intake, as parents may have chosen this school because of its wraparound provision. Staff restructuring at Budmouth College is an unavoidable necessity, given that staff costs now make up 93% of the budget. However, Dorset Council has not yet agreed to meet the costs associated with redundancies. This is a question for June's Cabinet.
No.
Under Aspirations Academy Trust, the curriculum will change, but initial indications suggest that this could be a positive step. We will see. We accept that some subjects might not be viable in the future. The Ofsted monitoring visit was delayed in order to allow the new head teacher to start having an impact. We're expecting Ofsted to return imminently.
Thank you, Councillor Curry. I was being asked if I would allow a colleague to speak, but these are questions from the public answered by the Cabinet.
Will I be able to address this in questions from councillors in that case, Madam Chairman? Because it was too late to put the question in. It is really rather relevant and important.
Question for councillors later on.
Thank you very much.
Return.
Could I just raise something?
Sorry, you have, I know you dealt with your question.
Well, the thing is that they said about the subjects. Like, does the council really think it's appropriate that IT should be removed from the school's teaching curriculum? Because that is what is going to happen. IT. We're all surrounded by IT. I can't believe you could think that's appropriate. You know, I really hope the council think carefully about what you're doing with Budmouth College. It was an outstanding school, and now, you know, this is really sad.
Thank you for your comments and for additional remarks, and I will leave you to discuss that with Councillor Curry. I will leave you to discuss that with Councillor Curry, which of course I'm sure will wish to speak to you.
We've now come to the end of questions.
And we now move into what is much more of a housekeeping part of the agenda. I'm proposing that we actually have a 10-minute adjournment for people to give up a comfort break. And for those members of the public who wish to leave, and those who so thank you very much for your participation. Thank you, everyone.